voice? Secondly, what is the current state of police reforms? Justice for victims. These and some more are the questions we are going to be answering, or things we're going to be really, expounding on. And remember, Ways is all about you, as you are the why in Ways. So be a part of the conversation every single day. Add your voice to the discussions, and head on now to YouTube and look us up at Official Upgrade TV. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, invite your friends and family to the show. And when I open my phone lines, I would really, really love to hear your say on this topic. As always, here is a quote for you to ponder on tonight. It says, democracy thrives when young people believe their voices matter. And this was said by Barack Obama. We'll get into this, of course, and many more in the course of our conversation. But first of all, we'll go on a short break. And when I come back, I'll take you through my news interest for the day. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are going to be talking about NSARS 5 years on. We're wondering what even the panel setup has been doing. Where are we currently with that? All right. So, but first of all, let's go through the news making headlines today that caught my interest. And the first one I have says 2027, Aisha Yesufu backs Governor Oti's rig and die comment. Now, the story has it to say human rights activists and co-convener of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, Aisha Yesufu, has backed Abia State Governor Alex Oti over his recent warning that anybody planning to rig the 2027 election in the state should first write their will. Now, Yesufu made the remark at the weekend in Umuahia while speaking with journalists on the sidelines of the Girls' Summit, where she advocated stronger action against gender-based violence. The outspoken activist likened election rigging to a political coup d'etat, insisting that those who subvert the will of the people at the polls should be treated as terrorists. Now, she said, we must all put our hands together and ensure that there is no rigging, because when you rig, it's the same thing as a political coup. I'm glad that the governor of Abia State made a very profound statement, which every Nigerian should take seriously. He said that those who want to rig elections to be ready to write their will. The truth remains that when they steal the mandate of the people, they are actually stealing the lives of the people. Yesufu, known for her strong stance on electoral integrity, urged Nigerians to resist all form of election manipulation, warning that democratic subversion destroys national progress. She said the governor has said repeatedly that everybody that wants to rig elections should be treated like a terrorist, and I totally agree with him. I mean, if you remember, this was last week, I highlighted in the news that Governor Oti made a comment and said, for those, he was first of all reacting to the comment that Benjamin Kalu, Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps, came to Abia State and made, talking about APC taking over in 2027, of course, after the elections, taking over the state. And, he kept... Benjamin kept going on and on about how the ruling party is going to take over the state. And then, of course, Oti said it's a fair game, right? Everybody has the same rights, equal right to actually compete or contest, right, as the case may be, and let the people actually decide. But then he made a comment last week and said, because there were rumors of, people saying they were going to get the votes, serve votes in favor of, just rigged entirely, rigged the entire process. And Oti said, well, first of all, if they're going to be writing votes, there's something they should write before they write the votes. And he was talking about them writing their will. And honestly, I think that was a very courageous and, bold thing for him to say, right? Because it's high time people started calling these people out on these actions. Nobody is holding people accountable. And Nigerians, I must say, we are quick to move on, right? We see these things happen as, it's not Nigeria. And then in the next 2 days, another thing will happen and we'll forget about it. So Aisha is coming out today and she's saying, I really back this guy for this thing. And I love what he said. And Aisha also, of course, she's known to be a voice, an activist, especially given this past NSAS, which we're going to be talking about this evening. So she has lent her voice in this same stead and said, you know what, I agree with him, and anybody that rigs election should be treated like a terrorist. And anyway, that's that for that. Moving on to our second story of interest. This one is something that has been blowing up for the past couple of days. Aso Villa under tight security as Free Nnamdi Kanu protest grips Abuja. Now, the story has it and says, heavy security presence enveloped the presidential villa and major routes across Abuja on Monday morning, following plans for a protest demanding the release of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Now, the demonstration organized by the activist and former presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore, convener of the Revolution Now movement, caused traffic disruptions at key entry points into the Federal Capital Territory. Now, security agencies, including soldiers, police officers, and hooded operatives of the Department of the State Services, DSS, were deployed in large numbers, sealing off access to the three-arm zone and intensifying stop-and-search operations. Now, security patrols were also visible around Eagle Square, the Federal Secretariat, and the National Assembly to prevent possible disruptions. Nnamdi Kanu, who was arrested and extradited to Nigeria in June 2021, remains in detention despite multiple court orders for his release. His supporters have continued to mount pressure on the federal government, citing concerns over his deteriorating health. Now, we've had news come out recently telling us that he's not doing well in there. His health has been very bad, is declining on a daily basis, right? And like the story rightly cited, a lot of court orders have asked for his release, but the reason he's still in detention is something we don't really, understand, right? And, I also saw a news in relation to this of some people calling for maybe the arrest or something of his lawyer because he joined in the protest today. Well, I don't know. I don't know why that is, but like I would say, we have to start honoring the judiciary in this nation. We have to start taking them seriously because that's something we don't do, and that is really sad, right? Anyway, moving on to my last story of interest. It says, oh my goodness, this is beginning to sound like a broken record to me, but I'm going to read it anyway. It says, Tinubu promises end to banditry and other criminalities. Our story has it and says, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reaffirmed his administration's determination to tackle the menace of banditry and other criminalities confronting the country, especially in the north. Now, President Tinubu, who spoke through the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, gave the assurance at the APC Niger South Senatorial District Zone A interactive session preparatory to the first November local council's election in Niger State, as well as the inauguration of members of the campaign council held in Bida over the weekend. Now, he further promised Nigerians of his renewed commitment to ensure the safety of their lives and properties to fast-track the speedy development of the country. He noted that security agencies will do whatever it takes to ensure that security returns to the people of Niger State as well as all over the country. The minister enjoined Nigerians to have faith in President Bola Tinubu as his reforms agenda is working. And the economy is getting better, adding that this is just the beginning of many better things coming our way. I really have a lot to say about this, but I'm going to leave Nigerians to say what they have to say. But let me put this out there before we go on a break, right? We are tired of promises in this nation, right? We are tired of promises. That's all we get. Ever since this administration came into power. Now, I'm not one to say, oh, this is the particular party I want to support or this. But I think if you are giving a job, you are supposed to deliver on the job because you thought you were competent enough, and maybe that's how the people who elected you also saw you. You can't come in here and give us sweet words, empty promises. You keep promising us every day from the very first time this administration got into power. But then we are seeing insecurity on the rise. Things are not getting better. The Nigerian reality is away from being okay. People are suffering. People are dying on a daily basis. So stop giving us promises and actually fix whatever the problem is. Leave all of these press conferences, all these briefings, all these statements. Leave it alone, and we want to wake up to a better Nigeria. We want to be able to sleep comfortably. Those in the north, they want to sleep comfortably and not, be worried about somebody breaking into their houses, or maybe they want to go to the farm and not be worried that people will harass them there and possibly kill them. That's all I have to say on this. Anyway, we'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the topic of tonight. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you're just joining us tonight, we are talking on something really important. We're talking about NSAS 5 years later, right, where we are. And I want you to be a part of this conversation, so please join us. Remember, you can join in by sending me an SMS or WhatsApp to 0818-038-4663. Also, our phone lines are open now. You can call on 070-2500-7749 and also on 0701-4242-420. Let's hear what you have to say. Now, you see, the NSAS protests, right, it's a reminder that power truly belongs to the people. It reminded us, it served as that reminder to us. You know, forgetting what it stood for, weakens that power, really. We stood together. That really showed me the power of unity that particular year. It shook something in everyone. People were fearless. People didn't care. With all the killings that happened, you still see people, you know, trooping out in their numbers. They didn't care. They wanted to fight for their nation because it really belongs to us. Right? So people were fearless, and Lord knows, right, my admiration for Nigerians grew, you know, above par, right? Now, to the area of accountability, many of the panels, you know, they were set up, of course. Now, many of the findings of this panel remain unimplemented. And the silence around justice only deepens, you know, public distrust rather. And, you know, why it is important for us to talk about it. Because the reason I want to talk about this today, right, is because journalism in itself, the media in itself, we help to shape how society remembers these things, these events, how they played out. And we can't be quiet about it. Today is the 20th of October, right? And this particular day was very significant for all of us in this nation in 2020, right? So, you see, by tracking promises and amplifying citizen voices, the press, we here, we play a key role in keeping the government accountable. Now, we're going to be opening up a few things, right, as much as time permits us. And I'm not going to be doing this by myself. So joining me in this conversation is Opeyemi Lawal, an investigative journalist with the Foundation for Investigative Journalism. Opeyemi, good evening, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you. Now, let's dive into it real quick, right? 5 years later, NSAS, you know, what stands out to you the most about, you know, how the media has covered police reforms and, you know, justice for victims? What really is it for you?
So for me, in the last 5 years, I am proud of how the media has stayed on the topic. Over time, we've had issues where a news break in our country, Nigeria, and then the media just moves on after reporting. It's 1 or 2 reports from a media organization, and everybody moves on like it's over, it's done. But for this particular topic, you find media organizations doing countdown. You find them doing memorial reports. You find media organizations sending their reporters and journalists like it gates year in, year out to know what people think about it. And beyond that, you also find the media amplifying the work advocacy group like Media Rights Agenda, the work they do. When advocacy group comes to say, we are suing the federal government for not taking responsibility for the death at Lekki Toll Gate, we are suing the federal government for not taking action or for not constituting a panel or for their panel being biased, you find media organizations amplifying that work, even if they don't have access to the information, even if the government is being lip-sealed about what's going on, about the truth. But whatever fragment of information the media can find or can lay their hands on, you find them amplifying, talking to sources, pressing on and ensuring that the truth does not die. When you see a random police report, most media organizations remember NSAS to say, oh, this police brutality this person is experiencing, this extortion this person is experiencing was something Nigerian youth once fought for. So they still ties back to that moment, so that night that changed everything in our history. So this coverage by the media is something I'm really proud of. The media has stayed on the topic and ensure that it's not forgotten, it doesn't go down in silence. I saw reports earlier, they say, oh, Nigerians are no longer talking about it. Probably there is silence. I don't think that's the case. When there's silence on things, when you go to Google, you do your Google search, you hardly find reports about them. But today, I saw dozens of reports of media organizations talking about what happened to us. And it's not just about a significant milestone. 4 years ago, they were there. 3 years ago, they were there. 2 years ago, they were there. Even for the first year memorial, media organizations were there, reporting and covering everything that really mattered.
At the media, we've stayed on it. But then again, pardon me, why do we always wait till, you know, it's as though we wait till the memorial, right, to talk about it, I'm expecting that there is going to be a stretch year in, year out. Let it be in their faces, right? But then again, of course, seeing the way journalists are treated in this country, I must point that out, right? When you, especially investigative journalists, I mean, you're one, thankfully, right? When you speak up about some things, your life is threatened, right? We saw journalists that had to flee the country during that period of NSAS because they were reporting and they were coming for them. We've seen, take for instance, David Hundeyin. We've seen him make some reports and he's being wanted. The other day, we saw a guy in which state, I think Kebbi now, that made a report about the healthcare in the state, and he was arrested, right? So we've seen this replay over and over. Yeah. Why would you think, I don't know how to explain this. How do we keep this thing in their faces instead of doing this once in a year thing that we do? I mean, of course, there is always a build-up, some days or some weeks to the NSAS memorial, right? That's 20th of October. We see that build-up. Stories, reports are coming out, people are doing exclusives, having interviews. Yes, this is brilliant, beautiful. But why don't we keep it going, right? Keep it in their faces. How do we achieve that?
So I need to talk about this news year in, year out, or why we can't keep it in their faces. You know, our job demands that we tell people what is currently happening. We tell them what's currently going on. And because of our nature as Nigerians first, and then because we are humans, we tend to get bored easily. You said something while you were talking about one of your news interests that, this is when you're talking about the president promising to address insecurity. You said something, it's becoming boring. So it tends to become boring when we see things like this every time, and people lose interest. And beyond losing it, people become desensitized to it. They don't feel the impact anymore because they see it everywhere. So this is probably why most media organizations just do a build up to it. Beyond that, there are news about daily. There are like pressing news items that you don't even have space for something that happened 5 years ago. That does not mean you've forgotten it. It just means that you're keeping it for the right time. And also, because we don't have new information on the NSAS massacre every time, we can't push it in people's faces. If there is a new information, you'll find it in the media. But if there's no new information, there is no way that piece would come up in the media. So for media organizations, we can stay on a story without necessarily pushing it in people's faces every time. When people talk about a report that happened before, I know Nigerians want to hear is there an update? If there is no update, you see the way they quickly scroll past it like, I don't want to read this. It's between now and then. So when we find new updates, we don't abandon the story. We don't shove it completely. But when there are new updates, we then bring it up again and say, as an update to this has happened. The time we reported this has happened. Between now and now, this has happened. So that's what most media organizations are currently doing.
Okay, so how can, investigative journalism, right, bridge the gap between public outrage and holding these institutions accountable? How do we bring that bridge, marry these two people? Because, of course, the citizens are already upset about these things. And also, how can an investigative journalist or journalism now, how can he bring these two things, hold these people accountable, and then manage public outrage?
I think it's a really difficult bridge, or it's a really difficult position to be in, because a journalist might not be able to report beyond what he or she has access to. A journalist might not be able to tell more than he or she currently knows. So first, a journalist needs to understand that they can't be everywhere. They can't give the public what they do not know, but that does not mean that they should settle. The job of a journalist is to dig deep, is to find what other people do not know in public interest and then show it to them. So a journalist's responsibility is not, I can't find it, I can't discover this, and then I fold my hands. Exposing things people do not already know helps to manage public outrage. Somebody says there was no justice for the victims of the Eleki massacre, then he generally probably finds a leaked document that says victims, I'm just saying, victims'
Yeah.
relatives got this amount of money or they got this compensation. Then it settles that. Or the government refuses to compensate them. I know there's an ECOWAS court, an ECOWAS ruling mandated the federal government to compensate the victims and their relatives. I don't know if the federal government has obeyed that ruling yet. So a journalist finds that document and the government comes out to say, oh, we compensated these people. And then the document finds a relative to say, did you collect money? Or even a victim and say, did you collect money from the federal government? Did you take anything from them? Or did they even pay you this as stipulated or ordered by the court? And then the victim says, oh, no, they did not pay. They did not pay me. That way, the journalist has stood in that gap of managing the outrage public towards the government in a right way. Oh, we are these people collected money, they didn't tell us, but then victims come and say, oh, they didn't pay me anything. So the job is really sensitive because if you're not careful, you can even be swept away by that tide. So it's a really delicate position, but it's not one that must be left empty or vacant.
Okay, just before we go on a break, right? 5 years later, what can you say about police brutality? Because, I mean, we were all there. We saw what happened during NSAS. But 5 years later, do you think there's been an increase, in police brutality in this nation? I don't want to answer from my perspective. I'm going to let you do that, right? Or do you think, oh, maybe there's been a decline, is reducing or something? Like, they always come and promise us something, right? Do you think in this regard, those promises has been fulfilled?
I'm sad to say that we are not there yet. I'm sad to say that there has been an increase in the number of arbitrary killings, police brutalities. I wrote something earlier today. I said that the exact reforms some of those people died for at Lekki Toll Gate, they are the things we are still dealing with, and we are in so many ways. I get reports. I report stories daily of the police killing somebody arbitrarily. One of the most heartbreaking police reports I have done this year, one of the most heartbreaking, was a 25-year-old whose wife was expecting a child. He went out to buy food for the wife who was expectant. And then somewhere, something happened and then the police arrested him. And by the time they would call the wife, he was already dead. And she was 8 months gone at the time.
What?
It could have been avoided. They claimed he had drugs. Yes. They claimed he had drugs. They didn't even find the drugs on him. It could just have been avoided. And then another one of, I think a 16-year-old boy. I keep remembering his story every time. The boy was his mother's only son. Really helpful. The mother described him in really, really, really sobering terms. It was really helpful, would go out to work so the mother can have money, so they can celebrate festive periods, just to ensure that the mother does not bear the financial responsibility of the family alone. And then a police officer was going home one night, saw the boy, and decided to pull his trigger, and the boy died.
So nothing happened.
We are not.
Nothing happened. The police just decided to pull the trigger.
I think he was drunk. It was late in the night, 12 a.m., 1 a.m. The boy was going home with his friend and they just pulled the trigger and then that was it. So we are far from the reforms we were clamoring for. I think it's even worse. There's so much. The police has been emboldened in so many ways. You go out to protest and then the police can conveniently tear gas you. We were at Ojota for the bad governance protest and you could see the police doing things. They've been so emboldened, you would try to film a police officer and he tried to harass you and do so many things to you. It's really worse and it's disheartening.
It makes it look like everything we fought for during the NSAS, everybody that died for that cause just died for nothing, right? And like you said, it's a very saddening situation. But let's hold on to that thought. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll pick up from where we stopped. Please stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're talking about NSAS protest 5 years later. What has changed? What's going on now? And I have an investigative journalist, Opeyemi Lawal, with me, having this conversation. Opeyemi, are you still with us?
Oh, yes, I'm still here.
Oh, great. Thank you. So we're still talking about police brutality because I think this is at the heart of this conversation. I think this was the reason everything escalated. And somehow, these people in government, they've mastered the craft of using the force against the people, right? Weaponizing the force against the people. And hence, that just tells me that these people in the force don't understand what their responsibilities are anymore, right? Because you are supposed to protect these people, not to be used as tools against these people, right? So, but, you know, there was Nigeria Police Reform Act signed in 2020, of course, being implemented in practice. Do you think it's now actually in practice, or like we say here, on paper, like we always do, audio reforms?
To be honest, I don't think it's in practice yet, or maybe we've not seen a greater part of the act in practice. Maybe they are taking it step by step, and we've not seen the larger percentage or the entire police force adopting the reform. One of my colleagues was at a police station earlier this year, and a police officer told him that I would kill you, I would behead you, and nothing would happen. I mean, he was saying this to somebody he knows is a journalist. Yes, this was this year. Saying this to somebody he knows is a journalist. Somebody he knows that if the person gets out of that place, that report to the media.
You know, that level of fearlessness is very commendable.
Yes. Somebody you know is a journalist, and when he leaves that place, that report is making it to the media, and you could say that to that person. So what about somebody who has nobody, somebody who is not known, somebody who has no access to social media, somebody who has no access to the spill down number of the police complaint unit? So we started implementing the reform, but I think there's so much to see. We are looking forward to so much. That's just what I was saying.
But then again, right, this moving away from the police, I think it's in the entire force in Nigeria, because we see the soldiers as well, right? How do we dismantle this culture of impunity? How do we tear it down? Because, like I said, your responsibility is to protect lives and property. And these lives are the Nigerians that you're being weaponized, you know, against, right? I understand some of them are like, you know, they're trying to protect their jobs and all of that. But this culture of impunity is on the rise, like you rightly pointed out. Since 2020 till now, from then till now, it's as though it's been multiplied. And just like this police officer told your colleague that I will kill you and nothing will happen, unfortunately, nothing would actually happen. Yes, nothing. The least can happen is, oh, they will strip him of his ranks and that's it. Do you understand? But the person is dead and 6 feet under the ground, right? So how do we dismantle this culture of impunity in Nigeria? Because we have to move forward at some point.
Okay. So first, I think we need to realize that force won't do anything. Nigerian police officers need to understand that when they approach somebody, that person has not been convicted by any court of law in Nigeria. The person is just a suspect. We are just suspecting that this person did something or this person did that thing. There is no assurance. There's no stamp on it to say this person is guilty of this thing. And you need to learn to treat that person like human. You need to respect. Maybe we need to start putting humanity first before the law, before order. If you meet me if you meet me for the first time and you accuse me of doing something, would you slap me first? Would you eat me first?
Well, some of them would.
You harass me first. What would be your first reaction? That yes, it's typical that when you meet a police officer as a suspect or as an accused of doing something, the first thing that happens is they want to dehumanize you. They deliberately want to strip you off of your human dignity. And it's wrong. It's not supposed to be that way. They do everything in the world to ensure that you are below them. And also, they need to understand that the jobs they do is meant to serve Nigerians, not to serve themselves, their families, or whoever pays their check or bankrolls them. They need to understand that the oath is not to a certain set of people. The oath is to the people of Nigeria. The oath is to every Nigerian or people resident in Nigeria. And when they begin to respect that oath, when they begin to respect that pledge, when they begin to respect that promise, then we can move forward. I saw an unfortunate thing while I was in transit earlier today. A military personnel was fighting publicly with a civilian with his uniform on. And civilians were the one trying to disengage them. And another military personnel was fortunately close to where I was. He was just looking at them and he didn't say a word. But it's so embarrassing. I mean, they were engaged in a physical fight and he was tearing the civilians' clothes. These things make us sad because it was broad daylight. I mean, people were passing, people were just doing their thing. If you could be emboldened to do such when people are there, the whole world is watching, what happens when nobody is watching you? What happens when it's just you and a random civilian at the middle of the night, in the middle of a forest that there is no GPS? What would you do to that person? So they need to realize that. First, treat people like humans. Nobody has convicted them. Even if they are convicts, there are ways to treat people. We have the anti-torture law. We have the you should not dehumanize people. Then secondly, they should recall their oath to the Nigerian people. My oath is to serve Nigerians, not certain people, or not to place the law above some people and then place it beneath some people.
You know, it's almost like as a young person, you have no right to make legal money as much as, a lot. So that's why you see, if you're a young person driving some sort of cars, I understand there's a cyber fraud happening here and there. The young people, most people are not patient to make legit money, of course. To everybody, most people, not everybody, want to take the shortcuts. Now, because of that, somebody rightly pointed out one time and said, there are more good people than the bad people in this world. It's just that bad people have better PR. And I agree, right? Yeah. So just because you know a few persons who are doing cyber fraud and has gotten their money illegally, and then they drive nice cars and all of that, you want to punish every young person on the streets of Lagos, on the streets of Abuja, everywhere in Nigeria, because they look nice, or maybe they have a particular hairstyle, or they keep their beards and they drive really nice cars. You're not asking the right questions, and before you know it, you're being told to make a transfer which by right should not even be happening. That's not that's not your job, right? You're not checking the things you should be checking. Next thing, you're checking the person's phones. And oh, I heard some story sometime, I don't know how true it is, but they said some of these police officers plant drugs in the cars of these people. So that, oh, you know, after they have finished searching here, when they go to the next checking point and they find out, that's how they will hold that one down. And then you're forced to make a transfer. This is not the Nigeria we fought for. This is not the Nigeria most people lost their lives, you know, for. Lost their children. People's legs are permanently amputated because of this protest. They fought for something they thought they should have. Anyway, but, you know, looking forward, because like you rightly said, we're not getting any better 5 years down the line. So how do you think the press, the media, civil societies, right, how do we hold them accountable to make sure that these reforms take place in the police force and every other force in Nigeria so that we can actually demand what we want from these people? How do we do that?
First thing I think we need to do as a nation, or as individuals, as Nigerians, is that when you spot any police brutality or any illegal acts by the police or any demonizing acts by the police, don't ever treat it. When you trivialize it, you opportunity to do much more or to do work. The police has done something, speak up. We're challenging in a nation where we say nobody listens to us, nobody pays attention to us. When you go to the police, they just collect money from you. But speaking up is actually documentation. Speaking up is not just for numbers. It is for reform. It is for an effect. So don't trivialize this. And then, as much as possible, people should always get evidence. A trend I have observed on X is that when people report ill practices by the police and they attach pictures, videos, whatsoever that can give credibility to their report, you find the spokesperson of that command jumping up and down saying, oh, we've contacted this person, please send a message to us, how do we reach you? You know all of that. So people should learn to amplify the work of the media by being good citizen journalists. We can't be everywhere. We can't see everything that is happening. So when you're making a report, if I want to send money to a police officer, for instance, under duress, I would ensure that I take that police officer's account details. You want me to send you money. If you don't want me to send to your account, then maybe you should not bother. Maybe you don't need the money, for instance. Just ensure that you have credible evidence, credible digital footprints to ensure that your call for justice is solid. And I think that the media can also demand for responses. Not just enough that somebody says, oh, the police did this to me, the police did that to me. One way the media can step in is to demand responses. Which of your officers did this? Have you identified the person? What's the punishment for this? What's the consequence of doing this? This puts them in a corner where they can't escape, or where they just have to respond. Of course, some of them don't even take your calls. They don't even respond to your messages. They don't even act like you exist. But the media throwing those things at them, they are not in vain. And then for civil societies, they should not stop demanding for a better policing system. We can't have too much. Or should I say, we can't have really good society that would say our police should stop reforming themselves. I'm not sure we are there yet. We are not close to it yet. They should not stop. The petitions, the demand, they should not stop, because we need all hands on deck to get the kind of policing system that we desire in Nigeria.
Right. And just before I let you go, Mary, what would you say to, you know, the Nigerian citizens who feel that their voices no longer matter 5 years after the protest? Because, I mean, we have general elections coming up in 2027. Right? And a lot of people are already very laid back, saying, what's the point? Right? What's the point, really? So what would be your call out to them? What would you say to them?
I would say that, just like I said with the reporting the police, every protest, whether whether it yields the expected demands or not is actually significant. In a democratic system, none of the agitations we make towards demanding a better society is in vain. I understand a lot of Nigerians, particularly the youth, are laid back. They don't. Some of them don't even interact with Nigerian news. They just want to wake up peacefully, sleep peacefully, eat peacefully, and then go about their life. But there is more to a society than that. In places where you have the opportunity to advocate, to demand, to press or to pressure the government, please do not hesitate to do it. I know it seems like, oh, we are just putting water in a large ocean, but you don't. When it compounds, then it becomes significant. It might take years, it might take months, like it might take weeks, but trust me, it's not insignificant, and it would definitely count for something.
All right, thank you so much. That's all the time we have up there, Milawal, investigative journalist. Thank you for your contributions, and have a good evening. Now, we see the memory of NSAS is a constant reminder that the fight for democracy is the fight for basic human rights and dignity. And you see, until the police force is reformed to protect citizens, not oppress them, the promise of a truly independent, accountable nations, I mean, it remains unfulfilled. The work demanded in October 2020 continues, and we must never stop asking for accountability. Anyway, that's all I have for you on this episode of Primetime. But before we go, let's take the quote again, just in case you missed it earlier. Now, it says, democracy thrives when young people believe their voices matter. And this was said by Barack Obama. My name is Choma Kalu, and this has been Ways Primetime. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.